Have you ever wondered why some stories refuse to end? We think of history as a book that's already been written, a library of settled facts and finished chapters, bound and placed on a shelf. But what if I told you that some of its most important volumes are completely blank? That there are events so baffling, so utterly strange, that they've left the world's best experts speechless for centuries, challenging the very idea that we can ever truly know our own past. These are the moments where the narrative of human history simply stops, leaving a profound and unsettling silence. In this video, I'm going to guide you through the 10 biggest historical mysteries that remain completely unsolved. We won't just look at the events, we'll explore the human stories behind them, the hopes and fears of the people who lived them, the most compelling theories about what really happened, and the precise, frustrating reasons why these enigmas endure. To bring you this definitive guide to the unknown, I've spent over 50 hours sifting through archaeological reports, declassified documents, historical accounts, and the latest forensic analysis to separate credible theories from mere speculation. This isn't just a list, it's a journey to the very edge of what we, as a species, can ever hope to know. And a meditation on the beauty of a good question. Number 10, the vanishing at Roanoke. What does it take for an entire community to simply vanish? Not just a lone traveller lost to the wilderness, but over 100 men, women and children. Imagine a fledgling town, carved out of a hostile new world with English hands, its small houses, its church, its protective earthen fortifications, all meticulously dismantled and removed as if they were nothing more than a passing dream. Imagine returning to this place after a long and perilous journey to find no signs of a struggle, no skeletons half, buried in the sand, no graves, nothing but a profound and terrifying silence, and the ghosts of the lives you left behind. This was the scene that greeted Governor John White in the late summer of 1590. He was returning to a small windswept island off the coast of what is now North Carolina, a place that was meant to be the first permanent English foothold in the Americas, a vital strategic outpost in the ongoing Cold War with the Spanish Empire. 3 years earlier, he had left behind a colony of 117 people, families, not just soldiers, who had gambled everything on the promise of a new life. He left behind his own daughter, Eleanor, and his newborn granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the very first English child born in the New World. His return journey to England for crucial supplies was supposed to be swift, but history intervened. The outbreak of all, outwar with Spain, and the sailing of the Spanish Armada in 1588 meant that every available English ship was pressed into military service. For 3 long, agonizing years, John White was trapped in England, unable to return to his family. When he finally landed back on the island, the settlement was gone. The only clue left behind was a single cryptic word carved into a fortress post. Croatoan. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now Hatteras Island, and the name of the Native American tribe that lived there. A seemingly clear, pre-arranged signal that the colonists had relocated. But a powerful storm was closing in, making the short sea journey to Croatoan impossible. With his ships battered and his men losing their nerve, White was forced to sail back to England with a broken heart. He never raised the funds for another expedition. He died without ever knowing what became of the colony. The theories have spiraled out from that single word ever since. The most hopeful and most widely accepted is that the settlers, facing starvation and abandonment, chose to assimilate with the friendly Croatoan people. There is tantalizing, though inconclusive, evidence for this. Oral traditions among their descendants of ancestors with grey eyes who could read from a book, and the discovery of some European trade goods in ancient Croatoan villages. But extensive archaeological digs have found no definitive proof of a merged community. Darker theories suggest they were wiped out by a more hostile tribe, perhaps at the behest of the Spanish. Or did they attempt a desperate journey home in a small boat, only to be swallowed by the unforgiving Atlantic. Each theory is a dead end. All that remains is the unsettling quiet where a colony once stood. This is the baffling 400-year-old mystery of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Number 9. The Devil's Codex. Imagine a book. It is a medieval manuscript, handwritten and illustrated in the early 15th century. It has a known history. We can trace its ownership from the court of the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II in the 16th century, to an obscure Jesuit scholar named Athanasius Kircher, who was desperate to translate it, to its rediscovery in a chest in 1912. For over a century since its rediscovery, it has been studied by the world's most brilliant cryptographers, the same codebreakers who cracked the German Enigma code in World War II, and the best analytical minds at the FBI. Every single one of them has failed to decipher a single word. The book itself is a work of art. Its pages are filled with an elegant flowing script composed of between 20 and 30 characters that appear nowhere else in human history. The language seems to have its own syntax and grammar. Some words appear only in certain sections, others are repeated with prefixes or suffixes, all suggesting a real, functional language. Yet it corresponds to nothing known. The illustrations, meticulously hand-drawn and coloured with expensive pigments, are even more mysterious. They depict bizarre, unidentifiable plants with fantastical root systems and flowers matching no known species on Earth. They show elaborate astronomical charts of unknown constellations and zodiacal signs. Most surreal of all are the pages showing small naked female figures bathing in pools of strange green liquid, all connected by an elaborate and organic-looking network of pipes and tubes, as if part of some arcane biological or alchemical process. The sheer effort required to create it suggests it's not a simple hoax. Is it an encyclopedia of a lost world? A coded medical text from a forgotten culture? An alchemist's secret journal, with its text deliberately encrypted to protect its dangerous knowledge? Or is it something else entirely? A work of glossolalia or automatic writing, channeled by a mystic? Each page you turn only deepens the enigma. It is a locked box without a key, a message that has reached us across 600 years in form, but not in content. This object, which continues to mock our every attempt at understanding, is known as the Voynich Manuscript. Number 8. The Phantom of Whitechapel. In the autumn of 1888, a new kind of fear took root in the smoggy, gaslit streets of Victorian London. It was a terror born not of war or disease, but of the actions of a single, shadowy figure who moved through the impoverished, overcrowded, and desperate district of Whitechapel like a phantom. This individual preyed on vulnerable women living on the margins of a society that had all but forgotten them, and the nature of his crimes plunged the global capital into a state of unprecedented panic and forever changed the nature of crime reporting and investigation. The brutality was shocking, but it was the killer's uncanny surgical skill that truly horrified investigators at Scotland Yard. The victims, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, known as the Canonical Five, were mutilated with a speed and precision that strongly suggested the killer possessed significant anatomical knowledge. This led police to believe their quarry was a doctor, a surgeon, or a butcher, someone who knew the human body intimately and could operate in the dark, in the labyrinthine alleys and dark courtyards of the East End, and vanish after each murder without leaving a single, reliable witness. His legend was cemented by a series of taunting letters sent to the police and the press, letters that mocked their incompetence and promised future horrors. One of these letters, famously beginning "From Hell," was sent with half a human kidney. Another was signed with a name that would echo through history as a byword for mysterious evil. The investigation was one of the largest in London's history, but without modern forensics, it was hopeless. Theories have swirled for over a century, implicating dozens of individuals, from a poor local barber named Aaron Kosminski to a prominent barrister named Montague Druitt. But no definitive proof has ever been linked to any of them. He was a whisper, a shadow, a ghost who inflicted unspeakable horror and then simply ceased to exist. He is the man known only as Jack the Ripper. Number 7, The Silent Voyage of the Mary Celeste. Picture a two-masted merchant ship, a brigantine, under full sail, moving steadily but erratically through the vast, empty expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. It's December 1872. A passing vessel, the Dei Gratia, spots this ship and hails it, but receives no reply. The captain of the Dei Gratia, a man named David Morehouse, knows the ship. He had dinner with its captain just a week before they both set sail from New York. Sensing something is deeply wrong, he dispatches a boarding party. What they find when they climb aboard is a scene of perfect, eerie normalcy. A scene that has become one of history's most enduring maritime enigmas. The ship was in excellent, seaworthy condition. Her cargo of over 1,700 barrels of denatured alcohol was completely untouched. The personal belongings of the crew, including money and valuables, were still in their quarters. The ship's logbook offered no clue, its final entry from 10 days earlier, noting only routine progress and the ship's position. The sails were set, but some were torn, and the ship had taken on some water but was not in any danger of sinking. Everything was in its place, except for the people. Captain Benjamin Briggs, an experienced and respected mariner, his wife Sarah, his 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and the entire 7-man crew had vanished. The ship's single lifeboat was missing, suggesting an orderly evacuation. But why would an experienced captain order his crew and family to abandon a perfectly sound ship in the middle of the unforgiving ocean? The most credible theory is that fumes from the industrial alcohol cargo were leaking, and Captain Briggs, fearing a catastrophic explosion, ordered a temporary evacuation into the lifeboat, intending to trail the ship at a safe distance on a long tow line. But a sudden storm or a parted tow line could have separated them forever, leaving their ship to sail on without them. Other theories speak of seaquakes, mutiny, or pirate attacks, but none fit the evidence. The ship itself is the only witness, and it remains silent. It is a ghost ship, a floating mystery, a vessel known to history as the Mary Celeste. Number 6, The Riddle of the Great Pyramid. How do you construct a monument so vast and so perfect that it remains the tallest man-made structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years? How do you achieve this with a workforce from the Bronze Age, a civilization that possessed no iron tools, no wheels for transport of heavy goods, and no complex machinery? This is the fundamental question posed by the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. Built around 4,500 years ago as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu, it is a structure of almost supernatural scale and precision. It is composed of an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, mostly limestone and granite, with individual blocks weighing more than a car. Some of the granite beams deep within its king's chamber weigh as much as 80 tons, and were quarried from over 500 miles away. The prevailing theory is that the Egyptians used a system of immense ramps, but the exact configuration remains a subject of fierce debate. Was it a single long ramp that would have had to be a mile long itself? Or a complex internal spiral ramp, for which some evidence has recently been found? And beyond the sheer weight of the stones is the baffling precision of the work. We now know the workforce was not composed of slaves, as once believed, but of thousands of skilled, paid labourers who lived in a purpose-built city nearby. Using simple copper chisels and hard dolerite pounders, they quarried and shaped the stones. Using plumb bobs and sighting rods, they achieved almost impossible accuracy. The base of the pyramid is a near-perfect square, level to within a fraction of an inch, and its 4 sides are aligned almost exactly with the 4 cardinal directions of the compass. The stones are fitted together so perfectly that you cannot insert a modern razor blade between them. While we understand the why as a monumental tomb, a resurrection machine to ensure the pharaoh's safe passage to the afterlife, the how remains shrouded in mystery and speculation. It is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Number 5. The Last Flight of Amelia Earhart. In 1937, she was more than just a pilot. She was a global icon, a symbol of courage, female empowerment, and the expanding possibilities of the modern age. She had already conquered the Atlantic, flying solo in a feat that made her one of the most famous women in the world. Her final challenge was to be her crowning achievement. A grueling 29,000-mile flight to circumnavigate the globe at the equator. On July 2nd, on one of the final and most dangerous legs of this journey, she and her skilled navigator, Fred Noonan, took off from Lae, New Guinea, in their state of the Art Lockheed Electra 10E plane. Their destination was Howland Island, a tiny, remote, 2-square-mile speck of land in the vast emptiness of the Central Pacific Ocean. They were never seen again. Her final, crackling radio transmissions to a nearby US Coast Guard cutter, the Itasca, painted a desperate picture. She was using celestial navigation and radio direction finding, but a series of crossed signals and misunderstandings plagued their approach. She spoke of being low on fuel and flying through cloudy, overcast skies. She reported that she believed they were right on top of Howland Island's position, but could not see it. Then, after one last, garbled message believed to be, "We are on the line, 157, 337. We are running north and south." There was only static. The US government launched the most extensive and expensive sea and air search in its history. They found nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no sign of life. The utter lack of evidence has fueled a host of alternative theories. The most compelling suggests they missed Howland Island and crash, landed on a different uninhabited atoll called Gardner Island, now Nikumaroro. Expeditions there have found artifacts from the 1930s, including remnants of a woman's shoe and a jar of freckle cream, and even a partial skeleton. But DNA testing has been frustratingly inconclusive. For a figure who lived her life so much in the public eye, to simply vanish into thin air is a powerful and unsettling mystery. The world is still left asking the same question it asked in 1937. What happened to Amelia Earhart? Number 4. The Canvas of the Gods. Imagine creating a work of art so vast, so monumental, that it could only be truly seen and appreciated from high up in the sky. Imagine carving hundreds of enormous, intricate figures into the barren earth, a graceful hummingbird over 300 feet long, with its beak sipping nectar from a flower, a spider nearly the size of a city block, rendered in a single, unbroken line, a monkey with a haunting, spiral tail, along with thousands of perfectly straight lines and geometric shapes that stretch for miles across the desert floor. Now, imagine doing all of this nearly 2,000 years ago as part of a civilization that had no ability to fly, no way to gain the aerial vantage point necessary to direct or even to see your own masterpiece. This is precisely what the Nazca culture of southern Peru accomplished between 500 BC and 500 AD. By carefully removing the reddish-brown iron oxide-coated pebbles that cover the desert surface, they revealed the lighter, coloured ground beneath, creating these enormous drawings, or geoglyphs. The purpose of these lines remains one of archaeology's greatest and most debated mysteries. Were they an astronomical calendar with lines pointing to the rising and setting of stars and constellations important to their agriculture? Were they part of complex rituals to summon water and fertility in one of the driest places on Earth, with the lines acting as ceremonial pathways to be walked by priests? Or were they, as some have speculated, designed as a message to powerful mountain gods who they believed controlled the weather? The lines are a form of silent, sprawling communication, but the intended audience and the meaning of the message remain lost to us. They are the Nazca Lines. Number 3, the lost tomb of the Serpent Queen. She was the last pharaoh of Egypt, a brilliant political strategist who spoke 9 languages, a naval commander, a medical author, and a queen who brought the mighty Roman Empire to its knees more than once. Her life, her legendary romances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, and her dramatic, defiant death are among the most compelling stories in all of history. Yet for all we know about her remarkable life, we are faced with one final, tantalizing mystery. Where is she buried? Ancient historians, particularly the Roman writer Plutarch, tell us that after she took her own life in 30 BC, allowing herself to be bitten by an asp rather than be paraded through the streets of Rome in chains, the victorious Roman Emperor Octavian granted her final wish. He allowed her to be buried with full pharaonic honors alongside her great love, Mark Antony, in a magnificent tomb they had built for themselves. But Plutarch gives no clue as to its location, and in the 2 millennia since, it has never been found. The search has been complicated by the changing landscape of her capital, Alexandria. Earthquakes have caused entire sections of the ancient city, including her royal palace, to sink beneath the Mediterranean. The rest has been buried under the relentless construction of the modern metropolis. Archaeologists have searched for decades, exploring sunken ruins offshore and excavating inland temples associated with the goddess Isis, with whom she identified as a living deity. A temple site called Taposiris Magna has yielded tantalizing clues from her era: coins bearing her image, statues of her likeness, and shafts leading to tombs. But the central tomb of the queen herself remains elusive. Her final resting place remains her own secret, a last act of defiance from a queen who refused to be conquered. The enduring question is not about her life, but her death. Where is the lost tomb of Cleopatra? Number 2, the silent collapse of the Indus. What happens when an entire civilization, one of the 3 great cradles of society, more widespread than ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, encompassing over 1 million square miles, simply fades away? Around 2500 BC, in the fertile plains of what is now Pakistan and Western India, a culture emerged whose cities were marvels of urban planning. Their largest settlements, like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, featured precisely grid-like streets, complex public baths like the Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro, and the world's first known urban sanitation systems, with homes that had private bathrooms connected to a city-wide drainage network. They developed intricate crafts, had extensive trade networks reaching as far as the Persian Gulf, and most importantly, they had their own unique, sophisticated system of writing. Then, around 1900 BC, after 6 centuries of stability and prosperity, it all began to fall apart. The great cities were gradually abandoned, the population dwindled, and the unified culture seemed to dissolve into scattered rural communities. The central mystery is not just that it collapsed, but that it did so without telling us why. Unlike the Egyptians, they left behind no grand monuments to their kings. Unlike the Mesopotamians, they left no stone tablets detailing their history or beliefs. Most crucially, the key that could unlock their secrets, their written language, preserved on thousands of small soapstone seals, remains completely undeciphered. Without written records, we are left only with theories derived from the Earth itself. The most prominent today is that the collapse was caused by slow, inexorable climate change. A shift in monsoon patterns may have led to prolonged droughts, crippling their agricultural base. At the same time, geological surveys suggest that tectonic activity may have caused the mighty Gaga-Hakra River, a waterway essential to many of their settlements, to dry up and change its course. It was likely a slow death, a gradual fading caused by the drying of the earth and the loss of the resources that had allowed their great society to flourish. This is the mystery of the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. Number 1, the vanishing of the Ark. According to the Hebrew Bible, it was the single most sacred object in the world. It was a golden chest built at the command of God himself, containing the stone tablets inscribed with the 10 Commandments. It was considered not just a symbol, but the literal, physical manifestation of God's presence on earth, an object of unimaginable power and profound reverence that was housed in the Holy of Holies, the innermost sanctum of King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. Biblical accounts describe it possessing terrifying power, capable of stopping the flow of the Jordan River, toppling the walls of Jericho, and striking down those who touched it improperly. And then, at the height of its significance, it vanishes completely from the historical record. In 587 BC, the Babylonian army, under the command of King Nebuchadnezzar II, conquered Jerusalem, sacked the city, and utterly destroyed Solomon's temple. The Bible provides a meticulous, detailed list of the sacred treasures and golden implements that the Babylonians plundered from the temple and carried back to Babylon. The most important object of all, the centerpiece of their entire faith, is not on that list. So, what happened to it? The question has captivated explorers, theologians, and historians for millennia. Was it hidden by priests in a secret chamber deep beneath the Temple Mount before the city fell, where some believe it remains to this day? Was it destroyed in the fire that consumed the temple, despite its supposed divine protection? The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church has a deeply held tradition, documented in their national epic, the Kebra Nagast, that the Ark was spirited away to Ethiopia centuries earlier by Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, and that it rests there today, hidden from view in a small chapel in the city of Aksum. It is a claim impossible to verify. The mystery of this object's disappearance marks the moment a physical artifact transforms into a powerful, enduring idea. This is the mystery of the fate of the Ark of the Covenant. And so, our journey through the fog of history comes to a close. We have stood on the silent shores of a vanished colony, peered into the pages of an unreadable book, and contemplated the slow, quiet collapse of an entire civilization. These stories, in their frustrating lack of resolution, teach us a unique kind of humility. They remind us that history is not a complete and finished text, but a living, breathing thing, with pages that are torn, faded, or simply irrevocably blank. They invite us not just to seek answers, but to sit comfortably with the questions themselves, and to appreciate the vastness of what we still do not know. For it is in these great, unsolved mysteries that we find the true frontiers of our knowledge, and a profound and enduring sense of wonder. But while these great historical questions may remain unsolved forever, some puzzles from the ancient world have been cracked using incredible modern technology. And everything we've just discussed pales in comparison to the story of how scientists finally uncovered the secrets of a 2,000-year-old object, often called the world's first computer. To see how they unraveled that mystery, click the video that's on the screen right now.